All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started here. First off, welcome. My name is Dr. Luke Reinhart. I'm owner and chiropractor at Proactive Health and Wellness. And most importantly, I'm a father of two young boys myself. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, Hudson and Owen. And, this is a topic that I'm passionate about just because I've been in a lot of your parents' shoes before. We've had times where you first bring home the little one and there's little to no sleep and everybody's kind of running on fumes and you try to discover maybe what a new normal is for your family, and then you hear a lot of stories like, oh yeah, my kid's 1 and still not sleeping, or 2 and still not sleeping, or older and still not sleeping through the night. And it can be a long, hard journey. And hopefully tonight, the goal is what we want to do is really kind of shed some light on what we typically see when children are having issues sleeping through the night, because we know that it's not just the child that's not sleeping through the night, it's really the entire family that's not sleeping through the night. So hopefully we're going to shed some light on that. Do me a favor, if you can hear me, go ahead and then type hello in the chat box. Kind of let us know your name, and if you have any specific questions as we go through the talk tonight, go ahead and add them in there as well. And we'll go ahead and get started here soon. Halle, if you don't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure. My name is Halle, and hey Kelsey, we're glad you can hear us. I actually work full-time in the hotel industry, and my now 2-year-old son, Lane, when he was born, actually his birthday, shameless mom plug, is next Wednesday. So he'll be 2. So 2 years ago, around this time, I was about to give birth to him, and I found myself in a situation getting ready to go back to work and having a child that wasn't sleeping through the night. So I became really passionate about getting him to sleep so that I could sleep. And that turned into helping friends. And then I realized that this was something I could be doing to help more families. So I went and became certified as a pediatric sleep consultant. And this is something that I wish I had more time to do during the day so I could help more and more families. But it is something that I do on the side, and I love being able to help families, particularly have recently found a little bit of a niche for working moms because I'm around them a lot, and I feel their pain, especially in work culture where we're not always supporting our moms and parents very much as a country. So what can I do to help in my own little ways, I guess, is what I'm here for.
Awesome. Thank you. So let me share my screen here real quick. And I think that's the wrong screen. Sorry, 1 second. There. All right, there we go. So we got a couple of slides to go through tonight. And like I said earlier, if you have any questions as we go through, please don't hesitate to stop us and ask questions in the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer as we go through here. But what the purpose of tonight, what we really want to get out of tonight is, first, why is sleep important? What's a normal sleep schedule? I hear that all the time. Like, okay, well, they're sleeping this many hours a night, but they're not taking naps anymore. Like, what's the difference between common and normal? Like, was it common for your child to it may be common for kids to wake up like 2 or 3 times a night when they're young, but is that necessarily normal? Should they be doing that? What are your options for helping your child develop optimal sleep schedule? We hear a lot of different things from a lot of different providers, and you search Dr. Google and you can find all kinds of answers. But what are the real options? What works and maybe what doesn't? Hallie's going to go over 7 tips for master sleepers. She's got some really great information there that is a little kind of glimpse into what she does with the parents that she gets to work with. And is there an underlying cause to your sleep problem? So what can we do to help discover what that is, and see if we can help your kids there? And we're going to hear some success stories too. One of the best part about both of our jobs is kind of seeing the other side of it, seeing a kid who's starting to sleep through the night, seeing a child who's like more emotion, can regulate their emotions a little bit better during the day because they're rested. Seeing the family who, everybody and mom and dad's rested too, and they're, arguing less and less at each other. And that's a thing, because when you help these kids, we help the whole family. So we're going to talk about some success stories as well, and just kind of give you guys a little bit of hope. That's, what we really want to do, is because sometimes it seems hopeless that just this is, I hear a lot of parents say, oh, maybe my child's just this way, or just this is who they are. And that's not necessarily the case. So the general things that we typically hear, is the biggest thing is not sleeping through the night uninterrupted. I hear all the time, yeah, they wake up 4, 5, 6 times a night, and they do that every single night, and they just can't stay in their bed more than an hour or so. And if they're getting to sleep, that's a thing, but sometimes it's hard to actually even get to sleep. It's, hey, my kids, they always seem wound up at the end of the day, and it takes like 30, 40 minutes, if an hour. I had a parent who, like, literally, like, they laid in bed and tried to hold their child for like 2 hours before their kid would go to sleep every night. And that's definitely not normal. They're still frequently wetting the bed even after they're potty trained. Like, is there something else going on there? And if there's other problems, or there's other things that we haven't um, talked about and discussed, or other challenges you're having, once again, use that chat box and ask us. We've seen, between the both of us, we've seen a lot of kids, and we've helped a lot of those kiddos. So I'm gonna pass it off to Hallie, talk a little bit more about what does sleep actually do for us, not only as an adult but as a child as well, and talk about what like a normal sleep schedule should look like based on age.
Yeah, so I think it's most common when parents come to me that they're coming very understandably so at a place of, I'm so tired, I can't do this anymore. So we sometimes forget about, you know, sleep is not a luxury. It is something that we all need. And you know that you need it, but why does our child need it? And so these are um, some of the reasons that sleep is so important, and more specifically, continuous sleep is so important. Growth hormones are released when we're sleeping, so they have to be in a certain stage of sleep for those growth hormones to be released, and that impacts all kinds of things, whether that's physical growth and development or mental development. So hitting those milestones, sometimes we see kids are a little bit behind if they're not getting the sleep that they need. It builds their immune system, increases blood supply. This is the time that we restore energy and build and repair tissue. That goes on. That's how we all function on sleep. Um, we do see that it can reduce crying spells during the day. Um, Specifically, when we have a lot of kids that come to us with other issues that they're experiencing, whether they have reflux or colic or things like that. And a lot of times, if we can get them sleeping more, we see a reduction in some of those other issues that parents are facing with their little ones. And so then we talk about, well, what is the right amount of sleep for our children to get? And this is a great chart. I don't know how old the kids are that the people that are on the call have, but this is a nice one to have in your pocket. 0 to 2 months, 15 to 18 hours, and all the way up until a year, 12 to 15 hours. So really an easy rule of thumb is if they're under a year, they should mostly be sleeping more hours in a day than not. And I think that's really eye-opening to a lot of parents, especially as they get older and closer to one. I often see that they're still not getting enough sleep, especially if they've never been taught how to extend their naps out of catnapping stage. And then our toddlers and younger children, we still want to see, between 9 and 14 hours up until the age of 10. So you'll see older kids who are going to bed far too late and still waking up early in the morning, and they're not getting 9 to 11 hours of sleep. So this is a really great piece of information that you can carry throughout your kiddo's childhood. So what's normal? Dr. Reinhart was talking about, we hear kids waking up certain numbers of times a night, but what is normal? Really, the only normal wake ups are for kids that are under 4 months old. So for 0 to 3 months, we say 3 to 5 night wakings. And really after that, most pediatricians would agree that kids can start being expected to sleep through the night. There are obviously always cases that we have to consider exceptions to that, but for the most part, that's the kind of turning point. Newborn daytime sleep is pretty inconsistent. Naps can range anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours. And between 4 and 6 months old, that's where we really want to work on lengthening naps, and they can be a little bit more reliable for consistently longer naps. And the average age to drop the nap for a toddler is 3.
So I hear a lot of parents who come in and one of the biggest misconceptions that we hear, and Hallie, once again, correct me if I'm wrong here, feel free to jump in whenever, but one of the things that I hear is, the first kind of stop that most parents do, which is the right place, is they talk to their pediatrician. Hey, my child's not sleeping. They're not getting up at night. And almost always the pediatrician says a couple things. Well, let's say one is, oh, it's just a phase, they'll grow out of it. And then, hey, they've been doing this for 2 years and they haven't grown out of it. When is that going to happen? Right. And so that isn't necessarily always the case. And then the other thing is maybe they'll recommend melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that can help regulate sleep wake cycles, but really the research on that is kind of shaky. There's not really a lot of stuff that's going to give them that's giving us a lot of indication that's really, really beneficial. And I also tell parents too that there's a difference between your child's eyes being closed and them actually sleeping. When they get into that deep recovery sleep, where, like Hallie was talking about earlier, really helps build their immune system, helps get them into growth and development mode. All that happens while they're asleep. So there's a difference between them, their eyes just being closed, and them actually getting really restful sleep. Sleep training is another thing that is really, really beneficial. Hallie's going to talk about some of the stuff that she's going to do here, but there's a lot of different things you can do with sleep training that can help them and work and things like that. But yeah, is there any other thing? If there's any other things that anybody else has any questions about, if it could work or if we've heard anything about it working or not, um, haven't talked about yet, don't hesitate to go ahead and put that in the chat box as well if you have any other questions about it. But those are the major things that we typically hear, that if people have tried something, those are the things that they've tried. And most of the time when they get to me, I kind of look at I get weird looks from parents or I hear parents when they're telling their friends that, oh my gosh, I took my daughter to a chiropractor to help her get to sleep. Or, my son's been sleeping all through the night since we started getting him adjusted. Most people, isn't really the first thing that they think about when it comes to sleep. And really, because when most people think about chiropractic, they think neck pain, back pain, and that's about 10% of what it is we actually do. Really, what we do is we help focus, help reconnect what's called the nervous system, right? Your brain, spinal cord, and nerves branch off of your spinal cord. Your nervous system is the master control system of your entire body. It controls and coordinates every single function in your body. And whenever there's stress on that nervous system, you decrease that communication, and it really directly affects our stress response. We're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a few minutes. But really, it's about maximizing how the brain is functioning, how the brain sees what's happening inside the body and controls what's happening inside the body. And when we talk about stress on the nervous system, most people are like, well, how does somebody get stress on the nervous system? How does that happen? They're young. They didn't, get in a car accident. They didn't trip playing sport, right? How does the child get nerve stress? And the real story is, most of the time we see it starts with something during labor and delivery, whether that's some kind of birth intervention, whether that's some kind of stressful labor and delivery, whether mom has stress all through labor and delivery. I mean, we talk about pregnancy now, it's from day one, completely stressful. And little kids, little babies, their nervous system is wired with mom from day one. And so it's all about finding stress within the nervous system and seeing how our brain is communicating with our body. In our office, there's really two ways that we know that a child might have stress on their nervous system that could be contributing to their symptoms, can be contributing to their sleep issues. And one of the first tests that we do is something called a thermal scan. Just measures temperature here from one side to another, but this helps measure what's called the autonomic nerves that control organs, glands, and tissues. We don't feel those nerves, no matter how much stress there is. They don't detect pain. So if you have an irritated nerve, you don't necessarily hurt. But we can see where that nerve irritation is here. If you kind of look at this little chart here on the right-hand side, we want to see these little lines that are white. The green is a mild stress, blue would be a moderate stress, and red is severe stress. This is, up here at the very top is really the most important area for us when it comes to sleep, because there's a big nerve called your vagus nerve that's your body's natural brake pedal. That guy hangs out up there. The other test that we do, and sometimes this is harder with the littles, but if we can get a good scan, this is really telling, is we do a scan called heart rate variability. So heart rate variability, our heart rate actually changes as we breathe in and breathe out. When we take a deep breath in, it puts stress on our heart and speeds our heart rate up. And when we breathe out, it takes stress off of our heart and slows it down. And that change, a variation, is a function of something called our sympathetic, our fight or flight nervous system, and our parasympathetic, rest, relax, digest, immune system function nervous system. The example I give is to really kind of describe how these two work together is, let's imagine all of a sudden there's a bear in the room with us right now. What happens to our body? That fight or flight response kicks in, our heart rate starts pumping, we start pumping adrenaline, push energies to our arms, our legs, so we can fight the bear or more likely run away, right? This is when you hear the moms lifting cars off of their kids because they're trapped, right? It's all protection mode, that fight or flight nervous system. So when we're running away from the bear, we're not worried about taking a nap, right? We're not worried about digesting our lunch. We're not worried about immune system fighting off the flu bug, right? We're not worried about growth and development. It's 100% protection mode when we're running away from the bear. So the other side of that nervous system, that parasympathetic nervous system, is our body's natural brake pedal. Their job is, whenever that stress is gone, whether it's physical stress, whether it's an emotional stress or chemical stress, they want to downregulate that sympathetic nervous system, downregulate that fight or flight response, and bring us back down to a normal resting level. They're also in control of sleep. They're in control of immune system function, digestion. We talk about any kind of growth development, once again, it's all on that brake pedal side. So oftentimes what we see with this one, especially with kids, is you can see here this picture on the left-hand side, there's this little white dot that's kind of down into the left-hand side. That tells me that that little child has shifted into fight or flight. Their stress response system is always on, and you can't fall asleep when you're running away from the bear. And that's what's happening here with this picture on the left. Picture on the right is after a series of care, we see that little dot move and shift. And this is what we want to see. This is a healthier scan where everything is balanced. So if that child or that person has stress, they can go into fight or flight, but more importantly, when the stress is gone, they can disengage and go back into recovery mode, which is, once again, where really sleep happens. So the balance between that gas pedal and brake pedal are really, really important. And I also kind of get weird looks when I hear people say, well, why would you want, what's a chiropractor going to do? Is he going to, twist my neck, pop? I've seen these videos on YouTube. And so I want to show one quick video of what a pediatric adjustment here looks like with our all-star Noah. Seen those videos on YouTube. We've all seen some of those Facebook. To be completely honest with you, I wouldn't want to do that way, let alone let my child be adjusted by someone doing that to my food. And so what we want to do today is we're actually going to show show some of the tools we use to make the adjustments, and kind of show you how gentle a pediatric chiropractor actually should. Okay. So one of the things we use, this is called an arthro step. Has a little tiny tap right here. What we do is alignments anywhere in the spine that there's a joint out of its normal position, putting some degree of stress on the nerves. We use this and we just do a slight tap that honestly didn't do anything to make the correction. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. Noah, you ready? Are you ready? So you just kind of start feeling the spine, feeling how things are working. Let's show you some of the other tools we use here. First, a lot of times I go by the scan we talk about in the office. You see previews of those. Help me really kind of localize where those areas of nerve stress are. But we're just looking for areas where the spine's not positioned correctly, take some stress on the nerve. And that's all it is. We barely even
tell anything's happening. It's so gentle. See yourself. Okay, well, one of the other tools we use a lot of temperature. You've seen the thermal scans before. They help us really, based on temperature differential, how different it is from one side to another. You can get an idea of where the nerve stress is, how severe the nerve stress is. But the cool thing is, especially in the upper part of the back, where most of these really important nerves, like the brain nerve, we talk about sleep, we talk about ear infections, we talk about ADHD, stuff like that. A lot of those sensitive nerves are up in the very top of the neck, and we can see pretty quickly a change. So when we find some misalignment there, over here, over here. Who's that? Who's that? Check here. And sometimes it's all that simple. So do a good job. Good job. Yeah. Do a good job. But that's how a gentle pediatric chiropractor can be. Shouldn't hurt the child at all. No bending, no twisting, no popping. Use the instruments. And oh, yay, say hi. And really makes a big difference.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pass it off to Halle again here, and she's going to go over 7 tips for master sleepers. Halle, I think you need to unmute there. Sorry, can't hear you.
Sorry, guys. This is past my bedtime. I am not at my prime. So really what this all comes down to for us is we have to teach our children independent sleep skills. And a lot of times those bad habits start at a very young age. And some parents get lucky and their kids figure it out on their own, but most parents don't get lucky. And it's really just a matter of how long you can hang on until you decide that, you need some help. So that being said, the very first sleep tip is that you have to work to eliminate props. And in younger kids, the most obvious prop is nursing and bottling to sleep. In older kids, the prop is often a parent, or it becomes, toddlers are very particular. So something has to be a certain way, or it has to be done especially by mom, or you can really derail a toddler by changing their routine. Or if they don't have a routine at all, they're fully derailed. So identifying your child's sleep prop and teaching them some independent sleep skills. Hold on one second. My computer is doing something really funny and I don't know how to get the screen back. Can you still hear me talking?
Yep, I can still hear you. Yep, I can still see you too. So, nope, just muted yourself. Something got muted again. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Next one is early bedtime. Early bedtimes are good for everyone. An ideal bedtime for all children that aren't newborns, which would be anyone up to, after 3 months old, bedtime should really be between 6 and 8 p.m. Because children naturally rise early. Bedtime routines are huge. I suggest that families, even with little babies who don't know what's going on, start practicing bedtime routines, because the older they get, the more important they become. A great length for a bedtime routine is about 20 to 30 minutes. And the reason that we do these is because it helps cue. Most of us have our own bedtime routines, and there's really no reason a child should be any different. So, very simple, a feed, bath, jammies, story, and to bed. And if you've eliminated those sleep props, it should be as simple as that. And then kind of an extension of that is a nap time routine. Really just a shorter version of your bedtime routine. And we do suggest that you practice darkening techniques for bedrooms. I get feedback from parents that, they don't want their kid to only be able to sleep in the dark. I get it. That's not always a normal environment. But while you're practicing with your kids to learn how to extend their naps, really setting them up for success with an ideal sleep environment is important. The reality is we all sleep better in the dark. So there's no reason to make it harder on your little one. Fifth one, sleep begets sleep. So it's very common, my parents included, to say something like, oh, they had a busy day, they're going to sleep like a log. And that's often not the case. That's what causes our children to be overtired. They skip a nap, or they're up too late because, you have them out at a dinner or a party or whatever it might be. That almost always backfires. And that is still true as our kids get older. Night feeds for our younger kids. Remember, the purpose of feeding a child in the middle of the night is not to get them back to sleep. The purpose of feeding them at night is to fill their belly. And so a lot of times, especially with first-time parents or just parents who have gotten to that point where they're absolutely exhausted, they're relying on that night feed to help baby go back to sleep. That is not the purpose. They should be kept awake while they're eating. There should even be a light on, and working to avoid that feed to sleep association. And the final tip, which really can be applied to everything we've just gone through, is consistency. Your job here is to teach these skills to your child, and just like any skill, if you aren't consistent in what you're teaching, it confuses your child and usually makes you take multiple steps backwards. So consistency, consistency, consistency with whatever you're doing.
So I want to share, kind of to wrap up tonight, a couple quick stories about some of the littles that we have seen over the past few years. Here's a story about Reese. Reese, when he first came in, he was having a tough time falling asleep, and even if he fell asleep, he wouldn't stay asleep. Typically, before he started care, he'd wake up 4 to 6 times every single night. When we first did his scan, this is what his scans look like. The one on the left, you can see, once again, we want to see these little areas that are white. Green is mild nerve stress, blue moderate, red severe, black is worse than severe. He had a ton of nerve stress, and his little body just couldn't calm down. It was always in fight or flight. Did a series of care, and as we were going through care, started to fall asleep, started sleeping through the night. Mom and dad were actually coming in rested, which was a good thing. But we did a series of care and then did scans again, and we finally got rid of the nerve stress. We see a little more typical scan, what we want to see. And once we got rid of the nerve stress, we can see he started to sleep through the night, and just kind of a different story. Falling to sleep much easier, and sleeping through the night both.
I try not to admit favorites, but Cash really was one of my favorite little sleep school attendees. This mom, Natasha, she was an older mom, and was really discouraged when she came to me that motherhood wasn't what she expected. Not really, as a fellow mom, made me sad that she, was in a place that she wasn't enjoying motherhood. And that was because she was so exhausted. And she was also working, full time, and then would come home and had to do all these things to try to get Cash to sleep. And by the end of our time together, Cash really was just nailing it. And I know that, at least for me, one of the most rewarding things in her letter back to me was just that she and her husband had a greater appreciation for each other and the time that they were spending together. And I think sometimes, the reason I wanted to show this one is we often lose sight of our own relationship when we're parents, with our spouse and ourselves. And you kind of take that for granted sometimes. And that's just as important, as getting your child to sleep for their own health and reasons. So this was a really special one for me.
And this is Jackson, this is my little nephew, and he was having the same kind of thing. It was he was waking up 5 or 6 times every night. Kind of a quick labor and delivery, but it's always funny to me because once they actually start sleeping, it's like, okay, so I don't know if this is a coincidence, but and so that's kind of what my sister-in-law said after he started sleeping through the night. But he was doing great after his adjustment. And then this is always one of my favorite pictures. Thea is one of my favorites too. She just cracks me up. She's always, you tell by the picture, she's just a little ball of fire. And it was the same kind of thing. She was just not wanting to go to sleep, really fighting it, always a tough time going to sleep. And if she did get to sleep, she would maybe only sleep for a couple hours at tops. She would be getting up 5, 6 times a night. They tried, giving her jelly beans if she just stayed in bed all night, and just nothing would seem to work. And once again, saw nerve stress when we started care, started working with her, started reducing some of that nerve stress with the adjustments. And just like that, she started sleeping through the night, getting her jelly beans every single night when she was waking up, and just completely changed the way that she was able to sleep. And then, able to function the next day. Mom saying, you know what, she's like emotionally, she's like a completely different child now. That she's always rested. I enjoy being around her. We just have fun being around her because she's a different kid.
Rowan, that face. So I thought this was kind of fun while you were talking. I was pulling up a text from Rowan's mom. Rowan is now 12 months old. She just turned 1 a couple weeks ago. And, once you're a client of mine, it becomes a bit of a lifetime support, life support, with me. Her mom texted me on February 3rd and said that Rowan had transitioned to 1 nap, and it was the most smooth transition we have done yet. And so I think what's really great, just to kind of talk about what it's like for a parent to come in these, really young stages and learn skills that they can teach their children, and then help them transition down to 1 nap, which is the hardest transition for all kids. And the parent feels confident knowing that they know what they need to do. And then they can pass that along to their kids, and they can continue to be good sleepers. So it's not a Band-Aid solution. This is a life skill. So I just think that's really cool. And this is the first time I've been able to give that kind of little update on this. So that was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then, I love, we love getting texts from parents too, saying, oh my gosh, you won't believe what just happened. And so this was a little guy who came in, Ethan. And once again, same kind of thing. This upper part of the cervical spine where those brake pedal nerves are so important. And when they're stressed there, these kids just have a tough time calming down. This was a text I got from Ethan's mom. So I'm very happy to report that Ethan asked to go upstairs for bed 45 minutes early last night, which is unheard of. No nightmares. That's another thing when I see when we're in fight or flight, our brain is in stress mode all the time. It actually shuts off a part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex that is in control of emotion and thought process and things like that. And maybe we've even seen nightmares pop up, but no nightmares since he got adjusted. He got up at 12:15 to go to the bathroom, which is normal, but went back to sleep until 6. So it's once again, it's always awesome because we know we get to change not only as much as mom was happy for Ethan, she's probably happy for herself too, because they actually got a full night's sleep. I had a mom tell me last week, she's like, oh my gosh, I got 10 hours of sleep last night. I feel like I can go for months on that. So it's pretty awesome once we can do that. Well, that's pretty much what we have for everybody tonight. If there are any other questions, any other concerns, please, we'll be on here for a little bit longer. Please don't hesitate to put it up in the chat box. And if there's something that we didn't answer tonight that you were hoping to get from tonight, please, now's your opportunity to pick our brains a little bit. But I do want to, give everybody opportunity, because oftentimes what I hear when I talk with parents or when I'm doing like a live event, I see the kind of the heads nod and this kind of makes sense. Like, oh yeah, my child doesn't want to slow down. Maybe he is fight or flight, or, oh my gosh, I do like nurse my child and then they go to sleep when I wouldn't even think about that. It could be my child can make an association with that. the question is, what do I need to do next? What's my next step? And, what we want to do is give everyone the opportunity to see if there's something that we can do to help. I'm not going to sit here and say we help every single kid that we ever see, but most of the kids we see, we find something that's going on that we can help with. And part of my passion of what I do is helping as many kids as we can. We see a lot of kids with like ADD, ADHD, sensory processing, things like that. And it's hard for them to calm down, hard for them to sleep. I've partnered with an organization called the National Family Wellness Alliance. They're a national organization. And over the next year, we're trying to raise money for more pediatric research, to do more research about non-pharmaceutical ways that we can help these kids, find out what's going on, what's working. So what we're offering right now is for $47, we'll do these scans like we talked about earlier with myself. We'll do a consultation in our office to see if there's nerve stress for your child. And Halle will do a consult with you as well to sit down and talk about potential ways that if there's something that she can do to help you with sleep training. So for both of them for $47, but what we're doing is we're actually taking all of that and we're donating it directly to the National Family Wellness Alliance. It's going to go straight towards pediatric research. So 100% of the money goes straight to them. It's a pass-through that we're going to help support more research to find out what we can do to help more kids and help more families too. So if you have any questions or concerns, you should be getting an email in your inbox. I think hopefully it's already there. If not, we recorded tonight, so we're sending a replay as well. If you missed any part of it and you want to watch or rewatch a part of it, your replay will be in there too. But feel free to reply directly to the email. My email is luke@proactiveohio.com. You can also reach out to us on Facebook. If you have any questions, any concerns, or want to take advantage of the offer, please let us know. We'll set aside some extra time. We can see if we can help your kids. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. I know this is late night for both of us too, but as a parent, I know most of you are kind of probably already laying down in bed or with your kids or watching this on your phone. And I really do appreciate taking time out of your day to spend with us. Halle, do you have any other closing thoughts? Anything else you wanted to say?
Nope. I welcome any questions anyone has. And if you don't feel comfortable asking it on here, you're welcome to send me an email, or you can, I'll just post it here on the side. Most people find me on Instagram, which is, you can look there, you can creep on me, or that's how you can ask me a question if you want. But otherwise, I really hope that we can, if you're on here, I assume that you're struggling in the sleep department. So we'd love to help all of you in whatever way we can.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time. We'll hang out here for a few more minutes if any of them pop up. Other than that, hopefully talk to you soon. All right, guys, I'm gonna log off then tonight. Hope you guys have a great night. Halle, I'll email you tomorrow. Oh, she just hopped off. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let me do one thing here. Sorry.
It's okay.